How about them Irish?
I can't take it anymore. I need a national championship.
This is the Four Horsemen Podcast.
Steve, did you know that Notre Dame has a 63% chance of making the college football playoff with a win against Georgia Tech?
I'd never before heard that in my life, so that's a very interesting stat. Where'd you get that from, Dylan?
I think that's from ESPN. Do you want me to tell you 1,700 more times during the course of this podcast?
Yeah, I think it might finally set in for us. Wait, what was that number again? Was it 63?
63%, and it drops to 20% had we lost. Did you know we're not in a conference, and that makes things harder for us? So I don't know. We might have to look for style points.
Wait, so if we're not in a conference, then how the heck are we going to get a top 4 seed, let's say, if we go 11-1?
Steve, I got breaking news for you. Notre Dame can't get a top 4 seed. The highest seed they can get is the 5th seed. Oh my God, Notre Dame is so disadvantaged, even though their athletic director built this fucking system.
Oh, gee, I'm really scared of a MAC team that we have to play if we're the 12-5 matchup. But Dylan, we won. Long story short, we kicked the shit out of a Georgia Tech team that had an injured quarterback, backup QB. Came in, did a serviceable job. I gotta, give credit where the credit is due. The guy took a fucking beating, and that opening drive, he was lethally accurate and scared me, but we came out on top. Thoughts on the game? Thoughts on the program? The state of everything? Let it rip, bro.
Yeah, I thought we played excellent. I watched Georgia Tech fans after the game do like their post game review, a couple of them, and what was consistently said among them is, A, Notre Dame is just a better team than us. B, the score wasn't as close as the game wasn't as close as the score. And then C, we played really bad. And what I would say to those Georgia Tech fans, and if there's any listening, I thought Georgia Tech played admirably. And what I mean by that is, like, look at the last drive. It was 34-7, I think, at some point, 31-7. The game's functionally over, and they run a 2-minute drill to go score 7 more points. And that's kind of annoying for us on the score margin part, but it shows a lot of tough fight from Georgia Tech. And that quarterback of theirs, he didn't have the best day, but like you said, Steve, he played valiantly, I thought. He had a crazy 4th and 10 scramble on that last drive that drove me nuts. I thought he played okay, and there's nothing wrong with saying we're better than Georgia Tech, because we are. The talent gap was, I think, evident during that game. But it wasn't a perfect game either. I think the run game struggled a little bit, but Riley Leonard looked good again. The defense settled in after giving up 7 points again. I don't know why we have to give up 7 points to start every game just to start playing football, but played good, won the turnover battle in the end. Special teams was great, a fake punt and a fake field goal. That's just because we don't have a punter or a kicker we feel comfortable with, I'm convinced. But yeah, I like the game. It's another week of Notre Dame doing what they're supposed to. And, the line was 8.5 when King was at quarterback. And I think it ended up being, 14, Steve, by the time kickoff?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what do we say, right? Good teams win. Great teams cover. Notre Dame covered. And it's covering after covering after covering. And here we are 4 or 5 weeks in a row. And do we have a football team? Like, are we making a playoff run? Is this the team we expect to see? Because that offense, man, it's getting good.
Here's a statement that I didn't think I was going to make at the beginning of the season, but color me shocked. Here we are, Dylan. I think we find out whether or not we are a legitimate contender and good football team this week against an undefeated Navy football team. Spoiler alert, I expect Notre Dame to win this week, as I do effectively every week, but what is this game against Navy going to look like? We know that we've struggled at times against the run, not to look, get too far ahead of ourselves in the conversation today, but yeah, to answer your question, do we have a football team? So far, we're handling our shit and doing what we need to do outside of a blip on the radar. We're definitely not perfect. Riley Leonard's not a perfect passer. But again, just be serviceable, be good at your job. You have an incredible, remarkable, impeccable defense that they are just running around out there like animals, just killing everything that they see. And we are a contender. But repeating, line after line over the last couple of weeks, how far do we contend come, late December or January? And that's, I still think there's some question marks there, but absolutely a trend in the right direction.
Yeah, to piggy off that, two things. One, Benjamin Morrison got hurt, and we had to see how Notre Dame would replace him. And man, I'm going to tell you, my horseman of the week is Leonard Moore, true freshman corner, long. I believe he's also from the same area as Benjamin Morrison. I thought he was great, Steve, and I thought he's been great all year. And I think he passed up Jaden Mickey. I think that's why Jaden Mickey transferred, is because Leonard Moore was the fourth cornerback, outside cornerback on the team. And the depth still isn't great, but man, I didn't notice much of a difference in the backfield. I mean, Georgia Tech moved the ball a little bit, but I thought Leonard Moore played great, and I think that's one of the keys for how far can this team go in the playoff is how far can we replace the star players we've lost. And so far, pretty good. I mean, we're getting good edge play as well.
Elite edge play.
Elite. Some would say elite edge play. We've got Bryce Young having a fantastic start. Burnham, Tui Halamaka. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from the edge position. And the other thing, Steve, we talked about, the run defense hadn't really been great this year, but they were damn good against Georgia Tech, and that's a good running team. I was really impressed with what I saw. I thought Riley Mills and Howard Cross had a slow start to the season, but they are just destroying the competition now, like we expect them to. Howard Cross is going to be a day 2 draft pick, in my opinion, second or third round. I think Riley Mills has every ability to be a draft pick as well. And the linebackers, dude, the linebackers. I almost gave Drake Bowen my horseman, friend of the program.
He is my horseman, yes.
Perfect. What a game he played. And he's been getting better and better every week. The game is slowing down for him. He's playing like instinctively. He's not thinking about things. And man, does he ever run hard and hit hard. You got Kingston Viliamuasa, who just gets better every week, and he makes such great pass rushing moves that, like, I could see a little bit. He's not the same kind of athlete, but I could see a little bit of Micah Parsons, where you could put him on the defensive end, or you could have him as a will linebacker. He's really talented to play all of them. Jaden Osbury is such an underrated hero. I think they put him on anywhere on the field.
He had that great form tackle. Was that him?
Oh, unreal. And that was him, yeah. And he was the same guy who stripped Louisville's quarterback he recovered. Moore stripped him. Jaden Osbury recovered, right? Just great hustle player. Jack Kaiser had his best game in a few weeks, I thought. Great at the run stop. And then Jalen Sneed got half a sack. I'm just liking what I'm seeing, Steve. We were all down and out. We were talking about coach replacements because it wasn't looking good. But credit to this team, man. Coaching, the position coaches are good. The coordinators are good. Marcus Freeman's good. This team's bouncing back, and I've got hope that they can finish the season 11-1.
So do I. I think 11-1 should still be the hope. I don't know about expectation. It is still the expectation in my mind. Now that I'm kind of just talking it through with myself, it's just like, we're just too fucking good, man. We're too good not to win out with the schedule, or with this team rather. And the schedule is looking a lot harder than what originally thought. Sans Florida State, RIP as a fucking program. Holy crap! But but yeah, things are cooking. The areas that we've needed to get better at. With the early season lapses and kind of just not living up to expectations, we are improving week over week. We're improving in the passing game, the offensive line. This wasn't their best week, but they're holding up. They held up well against Louisville. This was a massive interior on the defensive line for Georgia Tech that, they beat us a couple of times, but then, at the end of the day, we were moving the ball and getting, moving the chains, moving the ball, getting things done that we needed to do. So there was certainly improvement. We know that the pass defense is impeccable, despite all the injuries on the back end. And then as you surmised, the rush defense is definitely getting better. So 11-1's on the table. Playoffs are absolutely on the table. Did you know that there's a 63% chance? And yeah, we're in a good position as a program. there's a huge difference between good and great. Let's not count our chickens before they hatch, but we're in a good position.
Yeah, well said. And this is going to be a tough week because you have your Kryptonite, which is a G5 team. And it's a tough one on top of that, right? Navy plays an infuriating style of football. It's annoying as hell, but we're equipped with it. And we'll get to the preview, but I'm not that worried about it, man. I think from what I've seen the last few weeks, I really like what I'm seeing from this hockey team, from this football team. Sorry, I may have a hockey stream on the side here. Listen, I'm Canadian, okay? I have flaws. But I think we're gonna be pretty well off this week. I think Freeman's got them locked in. That loss against NIU is disgusting, but it had some benefits to it. And the benefit is that it forced us to lock in. Every game has been a playoff game. It was either you or P-Wagon tweeted that from the podcast. So that's a you point, and it's a great point because that's the mentality you have to have the rest of the season. And so far so good. And this is a great stretch of games now because that was the problem. We would get the A&M game, then you get the NIU game, then you get the Purdue game, but then you get the Miami of Ohio game, and then ever since then it's been cover. Basically, you've beaten every team you should have by the margin you should have, if not even more. So I'm liking the start to the season. The team's starting to develop, and can you believe we're halfway through?
A little bit more than halfway through, and it's time's flying. Time is flying. Both as a Notre Dame fan, as an esteemed member of the Notre Dame media, as a new dad to a newborn. It's going by quick, man, and it's been a hell of a season of college football in and of itself. There's only 2 or 3 unbeaten teams left in the top 10 right now, right? Yeah. So, and I don't think that any of the top 3 teams at the top right now, I don't think they're making it through the season undefeated. So that gives me a lot of hope that things are going to shake out. Be patient. Don't worry about rankings right now. We don't need to. First off, we know that we're a top 12 team, so we're on the inside track. We have advantage there. Don't worry about rankings week to week. Just worry about winning and fucking covering. That's all that matters at this point in time. And it's going to shake out. But in the meantime, it's been a really, really fun week. Unfortunately, the Steve, Hungry Dog parlay did not win last week. It came close. Louisville just couldn't figure it out. And then, Nebraska can just be shot into the sun. Fuck
You
them.
know what? That's on us for thinking Nebraska could win a big game. That's our fault.
Yeah. But needless to say, we got some more picks this week that we're going to get into in just a little bit. But the college football landscape is fun, and let's just enjoy the season while we have it, because before you know it, it's going to be 15 fucking degrees, and it's going to be dark at 4:00 p.m., and there's going to be no college football, and we're all going to be miserable. So just live it up, enjoy the fall, enjoy football, and Notre Dame is 6-1.
Couldn't say it better. And this, to me, has been the best season in a while, I think. Just from a general college football perspective, with the amount of big games we've had and upsets and just pure chaos and ACC refs keeping Miami alive. Just so much going on. 60%, 63% chance to make a playoff. There was a bird and a funeral. There was a whole deal about it. It's just been a great season. Okay, it's been a great season. I love it. I'm ready to maybe get into a little bit of midseason awards.
Yes. So we are a little bit past the 50% mark of the season, but we're midway through, and we're playing the midshipman, which is a mid program. So it all adds up to just picking a couple of players here of players and coaches combined. We'll go through it, but I think it's a good point to just give ourselves some halfway superlatives. So we're going to start with the skill position of the year so far. Dylan, who's your skill position player?
I think it's a no-brainer, but I'm curious to see your answer. It's got to be Jeremiah Love for me, both in the run game and in the passing game. He wasn't great in the run game last week, but he was phenomenal as a receiver. And he like leads the country in missed tackles. He's so dynamic. He's going to be here for one more season. And I think he deserves that MVP for skill player.
That was on that fake punt reverse. That was the smoothest sidestep juke.
Oh, that was unreal. I thought he was going to get hit too, because like the guy had him lined up behind the line of scrimmage or behind the line to gain, and I was like, oh, he's done. And he just, like Michael Jackson, almost like smooth sidestep. Guy went flying into another dimension. I love it.
Yeah, and I saw a post on X, formerly Twitter, today. Something to the effect that he has the highest missed tackle rate in the country, but he has 50 less carries than Ashton Jante, the star running back from Boise State, who's kind of the far and away favorite for Heisman at the moment. So, yeah, if he were getting more of the lion's share of the workload, then he would be putting up the numbers. But I'm fine with the amount of reps that Jeremiah Love is getting. You don't want to overuse him. You got a stable of backs back there. Aeneas Williams had a hell of a play on a third down where he broke a bunch of tackles. He really is the second coming of Kyren. We have a stable, so lean on Love when you need to. He's been phenomenal, so I certainly agree with you there. Knowing that you were going to likely take Love, I went and I took another pick here, and it's a guy that this is his last year on campus, and we should just treasure the time that we've had with him because he's a true underdog story that's risen to become the cream of the crop. I love him. I'm going to miss him when he's gone, and I'm going to savor every moment with him here on out. Safety Xavier Watts. He's been just the anchor of the defense. Had an interception this week. He's making great plays, tracking well. I think he's probably a second-round pick, maybe a first-round pick, but probably a second or third-round pick. But he's got a future ahead of him. 3-star wide receiver from Nebraska. Came onto campus, spent a few seasons, eventually switched positions, and he's really grown into his own. So, X, you are the X factor. You're the man. We love you. Next up, we have the lineman of the year. So this is just pure trench warfare, offensive line, defensive line. It is dealer's choice. Dylan, who's your guy?
It's tough because I don't know if we've had one guy who's consistently been dominant on either side of the line. I'm going to take an off-the-board pick here because I don't recall hearing his name at all in 7 weeks. And that's a good thing if you're an offensive lineman. I'm going Emil Wagner, the right tackle. I feel like he's just done such a quietly nice job over there. You could really go with anybody, but I like what I've seen from Emil, and I think he just deserves a little bit of shout because he doesn't get a lot of attention.
Exactly correct. Generally on the offensive line, the less we hear about you, the better that you're playing. And left tackle, true freshman Anthony Knapp this week had 2 or 3 rough plays, but on 55, 60 snaps, if you have 2 or 3 bad ones, they happen. And Knapp has played pretty well on that left-hand side, so give him some grace. But yes, Wagner has been great. I'm going to go on the defensive side of the football, and I'm going with Howard Cross. He's a leader. He's a senior, plugging up the holes, and love a good plug of a hole. And he's right.
Elite edge play, right?
Yeah, between the elite edge play and plugging holes, I love our defensive line. Next up, let's go with the special teamer of the year. We're going to stick with the players so far because it's easy for us to pick, quarterback of the year. We know who the quarterback is. It's easy for us to pick running back, wide receiver, all that sort of stuff. Let's go with the special teamer. Dylan.
It's been a pretty unremarkable special teams, I think, this year for the most part. We've got a couple blocks, and I think Bryce Young got one of them. And I'm going to go with Bryce Young, also just to put a little spotlight on him for how well he's played this year, special teams or not special teams. So, yeah, I'll go Bryce Young, but I think you could pick pretty much anybody.
Correct. Bryce Young, he also, I think it might have been the Louisville game. I do forget. But on a kickoff, I thought he put somebody in an ambulance because he just he destroyed them. He is a terrifying human being. He's 6'7", like 270, something to that effect. He's a massive body. He did have the block kick this week, so good for Bryce, and he's been great. I'm thinking outside the box here. I'm just going with Tyler Buckner.
I love it.
I just can't quit the guy. He was part of the fake punt or fake field goal rather as the holder, where he had the came up big with the first down. And just a side note, good for Marcus Freeman for not giving up, kind of foot on the gas, not being a pussy like Brian Kelly has been in the past, and trying to run up the score because he understands style points, something that was always a critique of BK in his time here. So good for Marcus for the call, and good for special teamer of the year so far, Tyler Buckner, for getting that first down. Next up, who is your coordinator or position coach of the year, Dylan?
I'm going to go with Coach Mike Mickens, because his development of those DBs is disgusting. Xavier Watts, 3-star wide receiver who was in limbo for most of his Notre Dame career. Benjamin Morrison, a very low 4-star guy with all the tools in the world. Christian Gray, a big-time recruit, beats out Jaden Mickey, who was a good player of his own. And then you got Leonard Moore stepping in and playing the way he has. And even from what we've seen of Carson Hobbs, he's been great. Jordan Clark in the slot as the slot corner has been great.
Low-key incredible.
Unbelievable. He should be drafted as a nickel corner in the NFL. On top of that, how can we forget Adon Schuler, right? He's had multiple interceptions this year. He's an alley safety who just blows up dudes in the backfield. To me, it's got to be Coach Mickens, but there's so many other valuable candidates you could pick, including the defensive coordinator, including the offensive coordinator. I love what I've been seeing from this coaching staff.
It's a fantastic staff, and a hyper focus on one particular guy in the offensive side of the football, the stable master, we can call him, because Deland McCullough, running backs coach, what more is there to say between Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, Keedron Young, Aeneas Williams, even Devin Ford has had his moments and flashes of brilliance. Those running backs are incredible. The future is bright. The recruiting is great. The development is great. Our offensive line is playing good, but not great. So like these guys are forcing missed tackles. They're breaking out of things. They are getting into the second level and getting those extra yards for themselves because of the coaching of Coach Deland McCullough. So, shout out to the stable master. And
Good pick.
Last but not least, I mean, we've had 7 games so far. We've won 6 of them. So this next category and final category is only going to narrow down to those 6, I would imagine. But Dylan, what is your game of the year so far?
I have 2 answers, and if you're thinking one, I can rationalize the other. But I am going to say Texas A&M. It is the biggest win we have, but I think it changed a perception of Notre Dame being able to go on the road and get that win. Sure, NIU kind of erased a lot of that, but that Texas A&M win is aging like a fine wine, right? The Aggies are 6-1. They're actually first in the SEC right now because they've played 4 games. And they're 4-0. They got a big one against LSU this week, so we'll keep an eye on that. But I think that was such a program-defining win. I think it was great for the culture, but also for the recruits to see what Notre Dame can do. They can go on the road to an SEC team and beat them. So I'll take A&M, but you can argue it, I think, a lot of different ways, and I'm happy to do so.
It was one of the happiest game watching experiences of my entire Notre Dame career, and it's one of the ones that you could easily pick because it was just so phenomenal, and you summed it up succinctly. So just picking something else because I can't pick that one, I'm gonna go with Purdue. It was the week after NYU. I keep saying NYU. Maybe it's just my subconscious of not being able to accept it. It was the week after the tough and devastating loss against NIU. And we come back on the road against was that a 12 o'clock game or a 3:30 game?
3:30 game.
It was okay. So it was still an afternoon game against a rival on the road.
You took them to win, by the way. Like you thought Purdue was going to win the game because, fair enough, we had just come off a loss. So yeah, I'm with you. Like that was a game we needed to win.
And not only did we win, we beat the living shit out of them. To score 66 points the week after only putting up 14 against, a fucking 2-3 Midwest team, whatever, whatever. I don't even know what conference they're in. I don't care anymore. But it was a bounce back and just get right game. Could easily make the argument for Louisville as well, right?
Yep.
But I think after coming off, football is a game of momentum. It's play to play, drive to drive, week to week, season to season. It's a game of momentum, and to regain that and having that be the springboard of the season has us in the position where we're in the 63%.
Oh, well said. Yeah, I couldn't disagree with you at all there. That Purdue game was huge just to get some momentum back in the program, and boy, did they ever. I mean, look, Oregon beat Purdue last week 35-0. I mean, that's a great margin, but that's nowhere close to what we beat them by 59 points. So that's going to be huge for us because that's a common opponent with a lot of Big Ten teams who could be on the bubble for a playoff spot. So a huge win there. But yeah, that's the midseason awards. I thought, midseason, I'd probably give us a B grade just because we lost to fucking NIU. But it's getting better, and I think we can finish this off strong. We're not really healthy, but we're managing, and the schedule's weird. I don't really know what to make of the schedule.
Perfectly said. Speaking of the schedule, this week is a great one in college football. A lot of awesome matchups. It was hard to narrow it down to just 5. I think we had 7 or 8 of them that we had to whittle down. But Dylan, is it time to get into the picking game?
Let's do it.
First off, do you want to inform us on the results of last week? I didn't go 5 for 5 on my parlay, but I think I still made out pretty well. How'd we end up?
We did decent. I gotta pull it up here real quick. So I went 4-2. You went 4-2, and P-Wagon went 3-3. So it was a solid week for us. I tripped up on the Georgia-Texas game, which you got right. You tripped up on the Nebraska-Indiana game, which I got right, and we both got Louisville wrong. But other than that, we were good across the board. We all took the Irish to cover against Georgia Tech, and they did. And yeah, pretty solid performance from us.
Perfect. So we both went 4-2, but if I went 4-2, that means I'm still hitting at about 67% roughly for the year, which is it's a good one. Yeah. It's a good year. So
my man,
make some money with us.
You might be ahead of that actually. So you're 34-13. I'm gonna do some quick math here for you.
Mm-hmm.
Which is 47. 34 divided by 47. You can hear me do the math. You're at 72% on the year, Steve.
God dang.
That is
we don't
ridiculous.
have a sponsor this season for gambling, so just pick whatever platform that you want and then gamble along with us. Hopefully win a little bit of beer money on the weekends. Bet responsibly. That's all I'll say about that. Let's get into
Brian Kelly. Do you do the Brian Kelly now that you're in South Carolina? Do you bring out a regional accent just to kind of fit in with your family?
So the only thing that I do actively try to speak slower. First off, I'm heavily caffeinated at all times. That's why I started a coffee company, as people know. And then I'm an Italian, so I have espresso running through my veins at pretty much all times. Espresso and olive oil, and cholesterol, and then and then also I'm from the Northeast, where I've spent effectively my entire professional career working in either Providence or Boston and commuting and waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Right. So I'm inherently a very fast paced person. Moving to the South, working from home, not having to commute anywhere, it's helped me kind of slow down in my life. So I'm trying, not always successfully. But one thing I have adopted from the South, which I love, is the ability to say y'all.
Y'all.
So
it is a good one.
I do have that dog in me these days. Speaking of dogs, there's no dogs playing this week. Well, let's pick an underdog this week. That's how we'll incorporate it. But starting on Thursday night game, we have 5-1 Syracuse on the road at Pittsburgh, who is 6-0, and they are ranked 19 overall. Pittsburgh is getting 6 points at home, Dylan.
Man, that's a tough one. It's all tough games again. Here's the thing. Pitt and Syracuse are rivals. They're old Big East rivals. So that's a rivalry game. And I'm a little afraid of rivalry games just because a lot of wacky things happen in them. I'm also trying to stall a little bit to let ESPN pop up so I can see the FPI on it. I'm just curious because I know where I'm going with it, but I want to see what the analytics think. So I'll tell you where I'm going at it before I pull up the analytics. I'm going to take Pitt because they're at home. I don't think Pitt's an amazing team, and I think Syracuse is a good team, and I could easily see Syracuse winning this. But I'm liking the vibes with this Pitt team. They've got a really good offense this year. They're at home, and if they lose a game, I think it's going to be another week, and they very well could. ESPN's FPI is giving Pitt a 69.7% chance to win, Syracuse 30.3. So ESPN, that's a pretty heavy lean towards Pitt. So I'm taking the Panthers, but if you told me the Syracuse Orange win this game, I would totally believe you.
Fair enough, because I'm taking the Syracuse Orange to win this game. And
Nice.
I'll tell you why. And it's because of Kyle McCord, which I think he's a good quarterback. He's not great, but I think in the battle of quarterbacks, I think he's the better in this game. And Syracuse's defense is good enough to make a couple of stops. Like you mentioned, it's a rivalry game. It's a Thursday night. It's a little bit wacky. It's a shorter week for both teams. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Syracuse money line on that one.
I'll take Syracuse to cover for the record since I didn't pick
Okay, so Pitt to win outright, but Syracuse to cover for Dylan. Perfect. Moving on to Friday night, still midweek action. This one has CFP implications, possibly, most likely. It is 5-1 Boise State, ranked number 17. On the road at UNLV. This game is in Vegas. UNLV is 6-1. They have Boise State is favored by 3 points.
Man, that has big implications here, Steve, because just to briefly run it down for our audience, the new 12-team format has one spot guaranteed for the highest-ranked G5 conference champion, meaning Boise State / UNLV or maybe Army Navy. One of them will get a spot, and it's the highest ranked of them. This has huge implications on the Mountain West Conference because it's a huge game for pole position there. And it could impact Boise State's chance to make the playoffs because although they're ranked higher than Army and Navy right now, should they lose this game, they would be a 2-loss team, and that might just put them out of it. So big game on that front. Steve, I like home underdogs. I am taking the UNLV, whatever their team name is, and the points at home.
Rebels. Yeah.
Rebels.
Okay, fair enough. And UNLV is onto their second quarterback. I think his name is Taj or Maj or something. But the kid can ball out. He's been playing really well. So I can absolutely see UNLV winning this game, especially at home. That's a Friday night game that I might honestly watch because I'm just going to stay in and chill out. I don't know, I like Boise, man. I just like Boise as a program. Always have ever since they beat Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl. So I'll always root for them, except for next year when Notre Dame plays them. That's a fun reminder. So I'm gonna, when in doubt, go with the Heisman front runner Ashton Jante. So I know that's a boring pick, but I'm gonna pick Boise to win and cover. Sorry. All right. Next up, we are heading to the Big Ten night game. In Madison, we have number 3 Penn State. They are undefeated, 6-0 on the road at 5-2 Wisconsin. Looks like Penn State is favored in this game by 6.5 points on the road.
Steve, we're talking about dogs. I got a dog for you. Luke Fickell's Wisconsin Badgers are going to beat the Penn State Nittany Lions at home Saturday. Give me the Badgers.
I'm tempted to join you, man. The only thing that's holding me back is, Fickell, give him credit for trying to modernize the team, going to a bit more pass-happy offense up in Madison, Wisconsin should always be a inherent, run-heavy team or at least a run-dominant team. if you want to be able to spread the ball out and play big boy ball, I love it. That's great. That, modernize, of course. But there's something I think Penn State has a loss in them. I just don't know if it's this week. So, I will take Penn State to win, but I will take Wisconsin to cover those 6.5 points.
That's probably the smart pick. I see a Wisconsin team that's improved a lot. They've won 3 in a row. They lost to USC in it was a game they were winning until the second half, and then, USC's a better team. And their other loss was Alabama. I just kind of like the way Wisconsin's been looking, and I think Penn State is vulnerable. I'm curious, though, because I think we both agree that Penn State has a loss in them.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know, where that loss is going to be, because, well, you know what? I know where that loss is, Steve, because
they're playing Ohio State at home next week.
Yeah. And then they finish off the year pretty easy. They got Washington at home, at Purdue, at Minnesota, and home to Maryland. This is a big game for Penn State, dude. This is if Penn State wins this game, they are a playoff lock, I think. Even with an Ohio State loss, they should be no worse than 11-1, if not 10-2, possibly probably in the Big Ten championship game as well. So, yeah, I'm gonna take Wisconsin though, like we said. But look, I easily could see Penn State winning this game. It's not like Wisconsin is known for being a big game performer.
Yeah. For what it's worth, I am going to take Penn State to win, but reluctantly, because 1, I hate them, and 2, I want them to lose this game. So I'm rooting against my pick. Just trying to win money for y'all. Anyway, see that, y'all? How seamless was that thing?
I love it. We've added some diversity to this podcast with a Southern man.
Of course. Next up, a cool rival versus the absolute worst people in the entire fucking universe. 7:30 p.m. It's the Michigan State Spartans in Ann Arbor. They're playing Michigan. Ugh, I just hate saying it. It just feels disgusting. Yeah. But Michigan State. This game is in Michigan. Both teams are 4-3. Michigan with a bad loss last week. They are now unranked. However, they are getting 4 points at home.
This is Michigan's schedule to end the year. Michigan State at home, Oregon at home, Indiana on the road, Northwestern at home, and then at Ohio State. Michigan needs to win this game to be bowl eligible. Michigan State doesn't. Even though they're 4-3, there's 2 wins there for Michigan State. Brother, the funniest thing is going to happen. Because by all means, Michigan should win this game. They're a better team. They're at home. It's a night game. I don't care. This is 2007 all over again. And frankly, I just like the Spartans. Give me Sparty. I'm taking the money line. Just fuck Michigan,
I'm joining you because I trust their quarterback better, Aiden Childs. He has some accuracy issues, but he's a gamer. And not only that, it would just be chef's kiss beautiful to have them miss a fucking bowl game and go 5-7 the year after the biggest asterisk of all time on cheating. I'm not even going to recognize what happened with the cheating because it didn't happen. Fuck them. Hopefully I'm going to stop right there before I say something bad. Fuck them. Michigan State to win. See, that's the heart. Growing and maturing as a 34-and-a-half-year-old man with a daughter. And we are closing up this week with an SEC matchup. Big game Brian and the LSU Tigers are 6-1 on the road at 6-1 Texas A&M. LSU ranked number 8, A&M ranked number 14. And in College Station, Texas A&M is favored by just 2.5.
Steve, I'm gonna walk this through with you. Would you say that Notre Dame and LSU are fairly similar quality teams this year?
Yes.
And they both have to go to Texas A&M, Kyle Field at night to win a game.
Notre Dame did.
Notre Dame did. Steve, do you feel like if Notre Dame was coached by Brian Kelly, they would have won that game at the start of the year?
I've seen that video too many times, my friend. No, they would not have.
And that's what's going to happen this week. The Texas A&M Aggies are going to beat the LSU Tigers. Give me the points at home.
Yep. I echo the sentiment 100%. I back you. I'm riding with you because Big Game Brian's going to lose it.
Yeah, I love it. Texas
Perfect.
A&M, home of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, I guess.
And of course, we're going to get to Navy week. Well, let's get into it. Navy is 6-0. They're ranked number 24 coming into this game. This game is at 12 o'clock, by the way. So everyone,
Gross.
that's a programming note. Yep, it's early. It's played at MetLife Stadium. Which platform is this going to be streaming on? Let me just confirm that for everyone.
I'm gonna
It's
guess
gonna
it'll be ESPN or ABC.
literally
Just a
both.
guess.
Yeah, ESPN
Yeah.
plus ABC. Yeah.
Sweet.
So 52.5 points is the over under, which is odd because
That's crazy.
they seem to think that there's going to be quite a bit of scoring with an offense that struggles in Notre Dame and a team that's notorious for running the clock out. So that's a little bit insane. So take the under. We'll start with that. But Dylan, what have you seen so far in your advanced scouting and analytics of the of the Navy midshipmen?
Well, FPI is giving us a 90.9% chance to win, which is about what it was against Stanford. Even though Navy is 6-0, their schedule has been Charlotte, Air Force, UAB, Memphis, Temple, and then I think there's another team thrown in there somewhere. Navy is a little bit different in the sense that they can throw the ball this year. Blake Horvath is their guy. He's actually, Steve, close your ears on this, third in the entire country in QBR at 90.6. He is effective and efficient, but he's also playing relatively dog shit competition. Navy, like you said, they're going to try to run the clock out. We've all watched Notre Dame Navy every year for as long as we've been fans. We know what Navy's game plan is. It never fucking changes. Fucking, like, what do you call those? Chop blocks?
Yeah.
Illegal chop blocks. Run the clock out.
Yep.
And just make life miserable for Notre Dame. It's the way it is. It's a tradition as old as time. From Navy's perspective, they can win this game for sure if Notre Dame turns the ball over and Navy just kills the clock, plays keep away. That can happen. And there's talent there. The quarterback can throw the ball. They got receivers who can catch the ball. Their quarterback is also their lead rusher. So in that triple offense, he is the main guy. And Navy's going to play fundamentally sound football. They're going to hit their assignments. They're going to do everything right. Now, if you match them on that, you'll win because you're bigger and stronger and faster and just more talented. But if you are sloppy, I think this could get ugly quick. But here's the thing. Notre Dame hasn't looked sloppy. In fact, against Georgia Tech, they looked the best against the run they may have all season. Linebackers coming downhill, tackles taking who they're supposed to take. How can you envision, or maybe I should say, can you envision Joshua Burnham on a pitch play with his pterodactyl arms? Right, we saw that against, was it Louisville or Stanford?
Yeah, Stanford.
I can see that happening, right? Because we're well coached, we're defensively sound, and we're just super big. We're super talented, and like you said, I do expect Notre Dame to win this game. But make no mistake about it, Navy can kill the clock on us. You got to be careful with Navy.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're going to need to continue to plug those holes, and we're going to continue to need elite edge play from that defensive line. I just think our linebackers are too talented, man. Like we've talked about before in the earlier in the episode, Drake is playing out of his mind, and the entire coalition of linebackers is great, and they can play downfield. Adon Schuler and Xavier Watts are both fantastic tacklers coming down from the safety position. And let's face it, like Navy hasn't played cornerbacks like what we have on the outside. So, they're probably going to pass more than what we're used to watching in prior games within this series. I wouldn't be surprised to see 15 passes, from Navy on the day. But with that being said, all you got to do is just play man-to-man press coverage on the outside with your two unbelievable corners and get your, have 10 guys in the box, 9 guys in the box rather, and you can pretty much, I don't want to say stop their offense because there's still a little bit of trickeration that can happen, and it is a little bit freaky. There are those cut blocks. It does suck to play against them. They can be effective at times, but a lot of clock is going to bleed out. And if Notre Dame can just be good on offense, you're bigger, you're stronger, you're faster, you can out athlete them, and we have great position coaches. So we should be favored. We should get it done. There can be some fuckery. Let's just hope for, as we always do in this game, we come in as healthy as we leave as healthy as we came in, and just take care of business. The line, Notre Dame is favored by 12.5 points at home. So basically, win by 2 touchdowns and you cover, and great teams cover, and I think that's totally reasonable. Are there any closing notes that you had before we got into predictions?
Yeah, so 2 things. One, Navy has a really bad secondary. Forgot to mention that. So that'll be good for Notre Dame. I think we have to throw the ball this game to preserve clock and to move the ball efficiently. And the second thing I want to mention as well, linebackers. As much as we've been singing their praise, this is going to be a tough game for linebackers. They're young, they're inexperienced, they're going to have to make the right reads and follow the right assignments. So that's one potential pitfall for this game is, does the youth on defense make the wrong decision and allow Navy to move the ball? That's one pitfall, but move the ball. Use Leonard obviously as much as you can in this one. Try to build up a lead, and I think a big key to the game is stay ahead of Navy. Like, keep them chasing the game. Don't chase it yourself, because that's where you get into trouble. Is if you're down 7, you're down 10. And you're trying to get back in the game, and they're taking 7 minutes off the clock with every drive. It doesn't matter how good your defense is there if your offense can't get the ball to score. So stay ahead of Navy. Don't fuck around this week. Like, no defense giving up 7 points first before we start playing football. Just get ahead of them. And I think if we do that, we should have no problem. And you talked about the line there. I think that's a very reasonable line for Notre Dame to hit. 12.5 is, 2 scores. So I think that's about it for me. Just watch out for that quarterback, but I'm feeling good.
All right. Well, let's do the thing. I have a score written down, as I know for a fact that you do as well, sir. So, Dylan, tell us what the final score will be.
This is going to be a lower scoring game, Steve, but it'll be a blowout. I got Notre Dame winning 27-10.
Okay. That's more likely than my score. I don't know. I'm psyching myself out of this one, and even though I ripped the line that Vegas gave, I think I'm actually coming up just a point shy of it. So I'm going with 34-17 Notre Dame.
Nice. I'll take that, man. I'll take that kind of score any day. You still cover there. 34 minus 17. Yeah, you're covering.
Pushing it to the limit, 51 points out of 52.5.
Oh, the over-under. Sorry, but you got Notre Dame winning by 17, so they'll cover that 12-point spread for you.
Yep, cover under.
Yep. I like that. I hope the defense doesn't have to give up 17 points. But if we score 34 against that offense, I know we're playing their defense to score points, but it's that offense that is killing the clock. So if you can score 34 against a Navy team, I would be pretty happy with that as well. So yeah, I think we see this fairly similarly here. In fact, we both have this by 17 points.
Yep. So, perfect. Well, I mean, are there any closing notes before we head into this game week against our, I wouldn't call it bitter rival, I would say appreciated rival?
Yeah, well said. That Notre Dame Navy game is a rivalry. I know a lot of people hate it when we play them. I get it. I wish they would play a less brutal style of football. But there's a lot of history there, right? And Notre Dame is a program that they value friendship, they value loyalty, and they will pay back for those things. And Navy helped out Notre Dame when it mattered most, and Notre Dame has helped out Navy ever since. I'm not saying we owe them anything. I think that's been paid off, but as a Notre Dame fan who loves tradition, I'm glad this game is still being played. I don't really want to see it to go anywhere. Maybe if we mixed in a rotation with Army, that wouldn't be too bad because that's also a rival of ours that we haven't played too much, sort of at the expense of Navy or caused by Navy. But yeah, Steve, I think we covered everything here. The Rip Miller Trophy's on stake this week. I've got Notre Dame. You've got Notre Dame. The listeners at home should have Notre Dame. If they don't, we haven't done a good enough job with our propaganda, so that's on us.
Fair enough. So go Irish and sink the midshipmen.
Absolutely. One last thing, guys. If you don't mind, please giving a nice rate, 5-star review, follow, subscribe, whatever the protocol is. You guys hear this all the time. We don't want to beg, but we do appreciate you guys tuning in, engaging with us on our platforms, and supporting us. So find us at Horseman Pod, Twitter, Instagram. Get your podcast wherever you can, and we will see you guys next week. Go Irish.
Go Irish.